talk to me about prioritizing self-care in your life, what that looks like for you, how you got to a place of like, wait a minute, this has got to be something I do, and how that manifested into how you show up in the world today, not just for yourself, but for others.
Yeah. Well, I think, that word accountability is huge in my world. And I think that, to me, if I'm accountable and if I share that with my children, and if I just show up and they can see through osmosis that the self-caring is starting from this body, through nutrition, through, physical activity, through emotional balance, through meditation, through all those things. So those are, I think it's what we do.
Yeah.
And then how we share it, but it's what we do. It's an action. And I think that is the easiest way to share that kind of possibility if they want that direction or whatever. So I do it for myself. I also do it for my family and my clients. And, I don't do it. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. It's that power of like, people, you can say all you want to say, but if they don't see you doing it yourself, it loses its integrity. Yeah. Right. I mean, it's got to start with you. So I think that's so important, and such an important message of, how we model to other people we're working with, but to our family and our friends, and how, the priority we put on ourselves then sends a message of the priority they should put on our well-being as well.
Right. Right. I think so. Absolutely. And then, then you match up with people that are on the same path, and then it becomes bigger, and then, oh, wow. Okay. I think this is good.
Yeah. And the energy matters, and we'll get into the energy more, but the energy you put out in the world is you're going to attract those similar types of energy, whether it's good energy or not good energy. So
that happens too, for sure.
Yeah, so that really, really matters. When did you get here? Is this something you've always had a grasp on, or did you have a journey to getting to this point where like, wait a minute, this is something to make sure I'm prioritizing?
Well, I think I definitely had a different upbringing. I was brought up as a Christian Scientist, as metaphysical, very spiritual at a very young age, and positive thinking and mind over matter. And so I grew up that way. And then always musical and dancing and music. And so there's always that joy. And but ultimately the spiritual aspect really carried from a very young time for me. Carried it through. And I had a near-death experience at age 12. And I was at a Christian Science camp. And of course they believe in positive thinking and you'll be all right. And anyway, it was a canoe trip, and my leg got in between two canoes, and I went under and saw my life pass in front of me and went through the tunnel. And
gosh.
And, I was kind of laughing. I said, really, this is really happening? I'm seeing everybody up there, and it's really kind of lovely, but wait a minute now, this is really happening.
Yeah.
So they said, you're not ready. So it's sort of that rush, part of my energy shift back into the body. And then you kind of jump back into the body. And I remember thinking to myself, I'm not scared to die. But what happened with that experience was something shifted. My spiritual, my life or whatever it was changed. And then ever since then, it's been this whirlwind of different events that have brought me even closer to understanding the energy, understanding the positiveness of living and being accountable, but also having that streamline of spirituality and belief is physics, number one.
Yeah.
Energetically that comes in and you start reading what that really means. And so, I had things happen to me, I was very psychic as a child. And, so it carried through. And then my spiritual aspect started. They came in at 19. I was living in California, and I was in a meditation. I just wasn't ready to receive. And then it happened in my 20s, and I wasn't ready to receive or really understand that this was this is real.
Yeah.
I'm going, okay, I don't think I'm ready. But then I had my kids and et cetera. And then somebody said, well, I think you can see energy. I went, was a doctor whose children I taught, and he's an alternative doctor from South Africa. And I went, okay, what's that?
Yeah.
And so I started training with Rosalind Briere out of California, incredible medical intuitive, amazing healer. And I went, they found me.
Yeah. It was time. You were ready.
Yeah. It was time. And so and then the ball started rolling, and then meditation and, deeper dive into what I think I've been a healer many lifetimes.
Yeah.
So I think it just sort of started building. And then basically I had my children. I was in my 40s. My father passed away with cancer. A year later, I got cancer.
Oh, wow.
And cervical 4, stage 4.
Oh, wow.
And, they said, I don't think you're going to make it. You got to take out all your parts. Male doctor, of course. And I said, I don't think so. I don't think so. So I found a female doctor. She said, you don't have to take anything out. And I said, listen, I'm a energy healer. I know how to shrink cancer cells. I want you to work with me. I'll work with you. And this is what I'm going to be doing. So, I went every three months and et cetera, did minimal medical things and started healing myself.
Wow.
And so that's when the method really started. I went, okay, I want to share whatever this is.
Right.
Coming, and it's coming fast. So that's when the word Shiva was channeled to me in Seeking Harmony and Energy, Voice, and Action. And I said, okay, that's it. That's why I'm here.
Wow.
So I'm the guinea pig. If it works, it may not, whatever people can figure out and understand that this, what we live in, this is an incredible system.
Yeah.
If we allow it to, if we have a communication with it. And that's what I teach. To get people in their body to figure out, okay, where is that? What's happening? Emotional, physical? Is your body responding to some sort of emotional stress? Yes. 2, and then how do we understand that? And how do we heal the body, heal the mind, heal the emotions in order to go back into flow?
Yeah. Yeah.
So.
When we live so much of our lives out of touch with our bodies, so I think just getting that connect point back and realizing what our bodies are capable of and how powerful they are, that they aren't against us, they're actually for us. And if we can switch that narrative that we heard, especially as women, we've been told not to trust our bodies, not to listen to our bodies, all this garbage. And it's taken us out of our bodies. It's taken us out of our inner knowing and trusting those nudges, those voices, those feelings, we talk about gut feelings and all those things that are trying to get our attention.
Absolutely.
And so I think that you speak to that so well. Talk to me about confidently setting boundaries, about what is like, okay, these are, because you are working in an alternative space where there's just some people, they just don't want to hear it. They're not going to be receptive of it. And you've got to probably create some boundaries around what's going to come in and be a part of and what's not. And to create a safe space for you. So talk to me about your boundaries journey.
Well, I think the biggest lesson is a husband and children
Yeah, no kidding. We learn a lot in that, don't we? We start realizing what our capacity is.
That's really a reminder every minute.
Yeah.
So I'll give you an example, and I think that this has to do with Enneagram and how knowing my personality type and knowing how I impose. So I learned that if I impose my energy and that if I'm not aware of that person not wanting that, that person will move away from me.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I have to be aware of my energy and let the energy be in the place where it's supposed to be. That is a boundary. So that means I'm pulling myself back in order to perceive, in order to observe what is there, what's in the room, and that's a simultaneous thing. So the minute I start pulling back, it's not my place to impose my energy on them.
That's such a healthy way to look at that. Okay.
Yeah. So you're grounded and you're grounding in your own space, not imposing what you think it is that's wrong with them. Or, I just hold the space so that they can show up.
Yeah. Yeah. I really like that because I think sometimes we mistakenly approach a boundary as trying to impose our ideas, our will, our opinions, our energy on someone instead of communicating that this is what I need for me. Whatever you decide to do with that is up to you, but I'm communicating what it is I need for me. And if we could approach it from that standpoint, rather than trying to alter someone else's behavior. And it's all about your words and how you communicate this, because you can say a lot of different things that might have been in your head. Like, this is the best for me. I have to do this. But if you don't communicate it from that I statement standpoint, it can go really wrong and really, and so I love the way that was a great example of how that looks when it's way. It's like, this is how I make sure I'm in check for me, myself, but also not imposing on others.
Right. Right. And it's like a gentle forgiveness. It's like you're forgiving, you're pulling back, and you're allowing that space to be malleable without judgment.
Yes.
So without judgment, and that's a skill that takes takes a while. But I think when you ask about boundaries, I think that's where the Enneagram and energy come in to play.
Yes, I'm fascinated with this. You've combined your background in dance, Enneagram, and energy to create this Shiva method that you work with, which is so beautifully tied into when we talk about taking care of our emotional, mental, physical, spiritual health piece. Ties in that beautifully. But talk to me about that combination of like when you realize, like, wait a minute, I've got some things here that when I bring them all together, because I think a lot of people are familiar with the Enneagram. I don't think as many, and you're starting to hear more about energy, but it's still not mainstream conversation, so to speak. And then being a dancer, many people have that background. But I love that. Talk to me about your journey and bringing those all together and how it serves the boundaries piece, but also this connecting the emotional, mental, physical, spiritual health piece.
I think number one is this is good. As a dancer, I love dance and music because it's an artistic expression of your emotions.
Yes.
And you use this as your vessel.
Yeah.
So you express it through your emotions, and so you're not talking, but you're moving energy. You're moving your body through expression, and one motion can create something. Can create a movement. Can be she's trying to say something, but she's not saying anything. So I think the beauty of dance, number one, helped me to understand energy really, really well. Just the overall human experience.
Yeah.
As a dancer. Then, learning about energy, learning about the meridian, learning about the chakras, running energy through my feet and my hands. That was okay. I got it.
Yeah.
So when someone comes into the room, you can see their aura, you can see their energy, you can see whether they're down or out, or if they're all over the place, then you say, okay, stop. I may not say it, I just say,
you're right.
I'm going to just use this kind of slow down and let's focus on what you want. And even the way I say that pulls the energy down.
Yeah.
So that combination to how to communicate, how to speak, how to have the other person understand the full aspect of what you're saying, it's an energetic response to the words. So that's why when I do meditation, they went, oh, okay, I'm starting to get that. And then the energy is calm. And then, so you use the deep meditation, the understanding of the body's energy field, inside and out. And then I'll give you an example. So there are 3 types: mind, head, and heart type, right? For the Enneagram. So a lot of the times I can tell what type they are just with the way they hold their body or how they express themselves or something like that. So for a 6, who is a mind type, who's a head type, they live up here.
Yeah.
They process information in their head, ask question after question after question. So they're in their head. They're not necessarily in their heart. They're in their head. So feelings are questioned.
Yeah.
So when I talk to a 6, I say, what do you think you're feeling?
Okay.
Not what you're feeling, because that's a...
Yeah, that is so key. Now, I mean, if you don't understand the Enneagram, we'll leave a link in this, listeners, but having my own understanding of the Enneagram, this makes so much sense when you say it that way. It's that gives you that, okay, I'm dealing with a 3, I'm dealing with a 6, I'm dealing with an 8. We've got to, approach it from this in a language and a communication style that they can understand. Right.
Exactly. And so when I am working with someone and I say, okay, that pattern thought is everywhere in your field. And if we get rid of that thought, that is energy. Thought is energy. Everything is energy.
Yeah.
So we're going to pull that thought out of your energy field and let it go. The fear is that there's nothing there to hold on to. I said, yes, that's the attachment.
Yeah.
That's the attachment.
Yeah.
So we let that go. And now you have more room to breathe, to feel.
That's so interesting.
Yeah.
And making space for it. Because if you have all of that stuff stored up that you don't process, that you don't allow to move through you don't have space. Right. And if you don't have practices in place that allow you to do that, there's no space for creativity, for new thoughts, for new ideas, for just good energy to live your life authentically.
Absolutely. And so, it's like you're just peeling away the onion, because if we don't clear, then that accumulates.
Yeah.
And that's what I can see. What the accumulation that is piled on top of piles on. And then I might just say, in a session, I could do 3. Usually I do 3 pretty intense sessions.
Okay.
And that's sort of a plug to get them started, and boom, it's like, okay, let's get this and we'll get going.
Yeah.
And I'll look at their energy, and there'll be a cue, or there'll be something, there'll be a memory, and I'll get a vision, a memory that they had at 3.
Wow.
And bingo.
Wow. And you've unlocked. Wow.
So, I mean, that happens. That can happen. It has happened quite a few times, but it's surprising for them. Then again, it's this incredible release.
Yeah.
But it's like, you haven't done anything wrong. You are not wrong.
Yeah, because we have such a moral assignment, these things.
You're not wrong.
Right, the wrong, the good, the bad, instead of these things happen as a result of this, and kind of taking a curiosity, non-judgmental approach. This happened. I'm going to clear this out. I acknowledge it. I don't want to do it again, but I've learned from it, and we're going to move through this and for, and the forgiveness piece, getting rid of the shame and all of these assigned thoughts around it, and also realizing thoughts are thoughts. Thoughts are not. We assign truth to thoughts when so many times they're wrapped up into these other things that aren't truth.
Yeah, and they maybe not even be your thoughts. They may be somebody else's.
Yeah.
That's an attachment. So
that's the attachment piece, and releasing those. And that can feel scary. Your nervous system gets attached to that was not meant to be a pun, but we create this connection to it, and then we're afraid to release because we're afraid of what we don't know. But then all of a sudden there's the freedom, like, oh, wait a minute here. There's other possibilities.
Right. And there these words that I always say is that, you're allowed to be here, and you're allowed to change. You have permission. That's the biggest. You have permission to experience something else that might work for you.
Yeah. You hit on that permission piece is huge. There is so much that goes into that, and the right person saying it to them at the right time where they feel like they can let that go, release that, and be able to go there. I think that we underestimate the power of that permission piece, especially if we've had a lot of narratives in our lives that made us feel like we don't have that permission, or certain entities have to grant that permission. Yeah. No, that's fascinating.
It's very human, especially, for women, but I think,
yes, women especially. I want to hit on that permission piece for women. I think that exists differently in the culture and in the narratives with women than it does for men. Has that been your experience too in working with women?
Yes, but absolutely with women. And a lot of times, sometimes there's some tears around that.
Yeah.
And I keep repeating it, and they finally get it. They get it finally that, oh, yeah, I can do this. I can lay on the floor and ask myself, what do I need from me today?
Yeah. And you have choice.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that's so freeing when you wait a minute here, and you realize what you've been missing out on. I think but I love thank you for talking about that, because I think that's very interesting how it's how we communicate to people in a way that's going to reach them is so important. It goes back to that. There's a lot of different, and one person's people are going to receive things differently, and having that Enneagram as a tool to help you understand that, because I will tell you, all of us in our family have done the Enneagram, and those Enneagram numbers are spot on. Not in my family. I can't speak for other people's experience, but and we will even it's funny, you mentioned earlier, you'll meet people and you're like, definitely a 2, definitely a 1. definitely an 8. I mean, you can see it if you know how to read that. You feel it. And also going back to people's energy, when it's heavy, it is palpable.
Yeah.
But if you're dialed into that, it can be so palpable too.
Yeah.
But again, when we live so disengaged from our bodies, people just go through life that way and can't understand why they're depressed, why they're having a heart attack, why all these things are coming up for them. And we miss those connect points because our medical world has lived so disconnected in Western medicine. Mm-hmm. There's not that understanding of how that comes together. It sounds like to me you have always understood, because of your own background, that connection of emotional, mental, physical, spiritual health. What are practices that you do now? Because when you're working with people, it's also not taking on their energy and making sure you're keeping yourself clear. Do you have specific things that you do for you to safeguard yourself for that?
Yeah. So that's part of the method is there's body work, meditation every day.
Okay.
The body work, interesting. I just did a thing on that today. So the body work was designed, I started designing that when I was working with the medical doctors who were orthopedic surgeons, and they were also acupuncturists. So they would do needles, I would do energy on them, and chiropractic. And so I learned a lot about the meridian system, which is the flow of the body.
Okay.
So I wanted to design a physical 20-minute piece with a roller and mat that would get people to understand their pressure points. Like this is a CV17, which is about emotions, which is the lung, which is the fourth chakra. This clears grief.
Okay. Wow.
So each, this is the fifth. This is another point, releasing grief, stress. This is another point to do some brain balancing. That's the sixth. So it's very specific. So I combine all the dance movement of, knowing the body.
Yeah.
The muscles, the stretching, and then at the same time bringing in the energy pressure points so that by the end of the 20 minutes, you're like, I'm back in. So you're having this daily inner dialogue with the body so that you can, before you work out, before you do anything, and then your day is like, I'm back in my body. Now I know what my body's asking.
Yeah. What you need that day.
Yeah. So it's like this breath. You're back home. You take 20 minutes, done. So that's on my website.
Yeah.
And the meditation is the deep chakra clearing, energetically releasing attachments, cords, contracts, karma.
Okay.
And that's a quick running through the energy field and the chakras. And then we connect with the soul.
Okay.
And it sounds like a lot, but once you learn it, it's pretty, even if you do 5 minutes, it's just one of those, that interconnection so that you can, okay, you got it now.
Yeah. Talk to people about chakra. Some people know the word, but they don't know the meaning behind it. Can you explain that a little bit?
So chakras are, from the Hindu perspective of understanding what they're called psychic centers or wheel. It's called chakras a wheel.
Okay.
And it's 360 and there's 7, chakras. Everything is a chakra system. It's sort of an alignment.
Okay.
Close to the spine. The first is the color red. It's about survival. So we clear these. Second is creativity, sexuality, emotions, boundaries. Interesting.
Yeah.
And that's the color orange. Then you have your third, which is about empowerment, authentic self, releasing that super ego.
Yeah.
Then the fourth is about love, and that's color green. And then there's the fifth, which is the color blue, which is about communication. So we speak through our authentic self.
Oh, okay.
This is intuition, clairvoyance, integrating all the centers. And then, of course, the seventh is source, soul, God. And then you bring that back in, you ground to the center of the earth and combine them both. And it's just very simple. And actually, you can do it while you're doing the movement as well.
Okay. Wow. That's really powerful too, and how it connects all those things together. And you said some important things in there. Empowerment and boundaries and that sense of being present with yourself and being in your body, and authentically showing up. I mean, all those pieces, I think, are pieces that people want to do. They just don't know how to. And you give a very, gives some steps here that are really everybody can do this. This isn't just it's very accessible. I think is so I love that part. So thank you for breaking that down. I think that really helps people understand what that means and the power behind it. Because I think sometimes we hear those words and we're like, because there's, a lot of skeptics and people out there like, no, wait a minute. This is actually very practical and directly aligned with your body and the system that it is and how it's designed. It's so thank you for that. That was super helpful. How we can support ourselves and other women in living unapologetically. You show up unapologetically in your work and how you do this. And I think you really give people tools. And we talked about women specifically on here, but talk to me about how you living this way and providing this, how you've gotten on this journey of wait a minute, I can do this for myself, but also I can help other people with this. This is powerful.
Yeah. So this concept and idea of self-healing. So the method is a self-healing technique. And if I can give the tools, which I've done on my own body, and sort of have driven myself into this way of living, and it works. And then I want to share those gifts, and so that others can find it in themselves. I can't, your body the best.
Right.
And I can suggest, I can facilitate, but it's really your journey in order to provide, I'll provide some tools, but it's really yours to deal with and figure out how it's going to work in your life. Yeah. So in each one of us, we're so unique in how we navigate through the world. So it's important to kind of have these tools so you can continue the way you are intended to. Yeah. Yeah. And you said something important here. We each have to learn how to do this ourselves. We have to access that within us. And the willingness to do that. Talk to me about building trust with people that you work with, because I think you can really only open up or allow yourself to open when you are in an environment that you trust. So talk to me about that piece. Yes, that's an interesting. When I am with a client and I look at their story, and their desire, what they want. Everybody has a story, but when we do this work, the story kind of goes away. So we dig deep and dive deep into loving yourself. And I go forward when that is cued in. I love that. So that's trust. Yeah. And that's, I believe in you, and I believe in your higher self, and I believe that your intentions are true and real. So let's go down that path. Yeah. If we go down that path, then let's look at the resistance. Yeah. So the resistance is the cue. Yeah. So then I have them kind of look at what the resistance is. And I said, okay, well, let's just play with this. It's not, don't take it too seriously. Just go with the flow and, don't apologize where you are, because you are where you are. You're human.
Yeah. We
all have experiences that we need to go through in order to learn.
Yeah.
And apologize.
Yeah.
That's number one.
Yeah. Well, and I would say for women, we are so trained to apologize for things that our neighbor did. Yeah, whatever it is. But even just unlearning that piece of it is so powerful.
Yeah. Very powerful. It is. And it's, I wrote a book called Emergence.
Yeah.
So this is a perfect example of doubt and, fear and all that stuff. And all, somebody said, you got to write this stuff down, Fran. I went, Really? Yeah.
Add that to the list. Okay.
Yeah. Right. So that was the test. And I remember if I was going to write the book, it would have to be channeled. It would have to be real. It would have to be authentic. And it would have to be me getting out of my own way, period. So I remember, because I had a year to do this, or a year and a half. And I sent my husband away and kids away. And I said, I got to finish this.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I remember talking about resistance, because my ego was getting in the way. And I was like, oh my God, I can't move. I can't. And so I was in the kitchen and I slammed my hands on the counter. Boom. And I kind of fell on my knees. I said, God damn it, I got to do this. I got to do this the right way, or I'm not going to do it.
Yeah.
So that's that moving out of your own way is the biggest thing.
Yeah. Yeah. I think that's so true. And that getting out of our own way, and we don't really realize how much we are in our way until we sit down and take a moment to do exactly what you've talked about, clear the space to do it. But you said something so important earlier too, that I want to come back to, is you don't move forward until they see their value. Yeah. Because if we're going to do anything intentionally well, that's going to have power and healing and authenticity to it, we have to come from a place where we see ourselves as valuable to do it, in order to prioritize it and clear the space and time for it. So I love that is such a core piece, because I'm such a proponent of, you got to start from there. And then when you understand your own value and you do this for yourself, you can then appreciate and understand others' value. And it creates empathy. It creates understanding. You're able to see people, meet them where they are. And be like, okay, but if you're not able to do that with yourself, it's really difficult to do that with other people. Right. The importance of setting and coming back to your why and your values. You had a very clear, wait a minute, I can help people here. There's something to this that is not only beneficial to me, but be beneficial to a lot of people. But then also, using your time wisely and being, mindful of the time you spend. So talk to me about your why and your values and how that frames how you spend this time and who you spend it with.
Well, the word integrity comes up a lot.
Yeah.
So I value my children, my husband, my, friends that understand love. Love is the biggest word, biggest energy that we can exist on.
Yeah.
So I think if we are accountable and if we believe in these higher frequencies, and especially now, because I think we are in a really, really powerful time where we can access these energies. This is why this is all up. This is why this is.
Yeah.
So I think that having integrity in how you live, it's artistic, it's poetic, all those things. It's touchable. It's it's like we're living in a piece of art. This is just incredible what we're living in. And if we can bring the beauty and the integrity back into daily life, I think that is tremendous. And that is a commitment. Yeah. I'm committed to that. My kitty's crying. It's so sorry. And there she is. So I think just and nature, finding the beauty in nature and having this, having nature hold your hand, and walking through, and getting out of the way in order to have this experience is life.
It is. And you said, the accountability piece. I love that you brought that up again, because I think so many times, and I've had this conversation with other guests too, there's sometimes a piece of we just get stuck and we get stuck and it's easier to blame others. It's easier to play the victim than it is to actually see what it is you can do to move your needle in your own life, because other people cannot move that needle for you. And so, but you're not going to get anywhere that's going to feel good, honest, intentional, authentic if you aren't accountable for your part in it. And you have to play a role in your own life. So I think that is so powerful too. And what if we all did that? What if we played that role in our lives? What if we made decisions from that space? You really can change the direction for women, for the world, for how we live, how we interact with each other, if you're willing to take the time to be accountable for your part in it and clear out all the gunk and the pain and, and the unprocessed garbage. And I think, and I've talked about this before, and I think it comes up so many times, we're unwilling to sit in the discomfort of it. And we're more the discomfort of it, but it's like, wait a minute, if you can sit in the discomfort and hash this out, you can free yourself. You can feel less heavy. You don't have to feel heavy. So when people are struggling, do you have a specific way that you're able to kind of like bring people in and be like, wait a minute, but at the same time, I don't know how much. Hello, kitty. We got a cat in the conversation now. She's like, wait a minute, I'm here too. Or is it just a thing where it's like, listen, you got to be in a certain space before we can work together, because you got to, and I'm guessing that's probably more of that. You can't make people be in a place they're unwilling to go.
Right. And that's a very good point. And I said, look, I would say, if you're not ready, you're not ready. It's okay.
Yeah.
It's okay. And you can have a session with me and I may not be the one.
Sure.
And maybe you should go, maybe someone else would serve you better. There's no blame or shame here as far as, it's all about energy. So some work together well and some don't.
Right.
If they're on board, and I always have this image, if we get to a certain point where they're ready to kind of move forward.
Yeah.
There's some steps up there. You walk up those steps and there's a door. And you can open it. And you can just stand there and decide whether you want to jump into the unknown and really find yourself.
Yeah.
Or you don't have to.
Yeah. I think what you just said there is you frame it into a choice where there's freedom. Like, wait a minute.
Yeah.
And even just approaching it of like not apologizing for you where you are, meeting people where they are. And if we can remove, oh my gosh, we can remove the shame and the guilt and the, and get that stuff out of the way. And this has kind of become a key word for me that moves me out of my judgment brain of being curious, to being curious and, okay, what is getting in my way? What is keeping me from here? But also not feeling like you're being judged by that person you're working with. Because you said something important earlier. Different people connect with different ways and energies and ways to do. You're not going to be for everybody, which is why it's so important to have. But I love that also too, because like in the podcast world, for instance, there's a group of women and we all are in a similar vein, but we have our own way of doing that. And rather than being like, being the scarcity mindset, we're like, let's come in, let's do this together. There's space for all of us. And we all need to be doing this because different people need to hear these messages and they're going to be attracted in different ways. And I think it's a lot about what you do. It's like, okay, come in. Here we are. If not, I presented you with these concepts, these ideas. I've opened a door for you to walk through, and then you can take and do with it what you will. But that, again, going back to that choice piece, especially for women, it's such a good reminder that we have a choice. And when it's framed as your choice,
right?
No one's making you do this,
right?
There's a freedom in that because that's so many times we don't feel like that's how life has been laid out for us. It's being laid out with a series of expectations, which goes nicely into living out of your own expectations versus others' expectations. I think the way you do this, that comes out very authentically through this. Has that been your experience?
Yeah. I mean, it's so, it's interesting. I've had some really beautiful healings and, with cancer patients, heart patients, people going through a traumatic time of loss. And, it is all an experience and all of a learning experience when you are working in that intimacy and the joy of seeing the shift and the change.
Yeah.
The minute I start thinking I'm special, forget about it. Nothing works.
Yeah.
So that's really important to understand, being humble to the gift, because it comes from a higher place.
Yeah.
And that alone is, to me, the beauty.
Yeah. And there's a responsibility that comes with that in terms of how you treat that and honor that, and not letting others' expectations of how you should show up get in the way of that. Like, no. I know how I need to show up in this, and that's nice, but no, these are my expectations. This is what I know. And the way I have to show up to honor this thing that I'm doing, that I've been given the opportunity to do.
Right. Absolutely. And, there are beings and people who always want control.
Yeah.
And it's very important to know that those are the boundaries of people that cannot give it up.
Right.
They want the control, and they want to have what you have, or whatever it is that they want to rework things. And there are humans out there that do that. There are a lot of those kinds of people. And those are the ones that you have to be very careful with.
Yeah.
And stay grounded in your own truth.
Yeah.
Because they see that you have that truth, and they want to control that.
Well, and they control it, and there's probably an envy in that too.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't, and I've learned. I'm learning.
Yeah, exactly.
honey, that's yours. You just have it. You can have it.
Yeah.
So that's a very, and you don't know that until you have those experiences. So everything's sacred.
Talk to me about accepting the layered aspects of ourselves. I think this work breathes so beautifully into that, of accepting all those parts of us and being able to forgive, to release, to acknowledge, and just be sometimes like, that is what I had to work with at the time. And I'm not going to shame myself, beat myself up over that anymore. I'm not going to carry that anymore. Have you always, because of your background, have you always had an understanding of that? Or is that something you had to grow into just through life and experience?
Oh, just life and experience. I mean, I've certainly made mistakes, certainly have gotten myself into situations where, people have taken advantage of me because of my pride. And so I had to learn through that. And you have to have those experiences to understand that.
Yeah.
Sorry to say, that is part of
that's part of the journey.
Human experience. So those layers are, we learn through, but all aspects of ourselves, that emotional component, that physical, spiritual, psychological, those are they're all connected. And each one speaks to the other.
Yeah. And there's overlap, I mean, there is just a continual connection. And I think if you could understand that and the power of that, it changes the way you view yourself, your life, how you take care of yourself, how you're even able to see your experiences.
Right.
But it's when you come in with all these disconnections that I think that's when the stuff really gets, and you live outside your body and you don't honor all of that connection and what it does and how the body was really designed to do that in the first place. That it's designed for all that connection. Yeah. But and then it's like, that can be such a like, oh, wait a minute here. That makes so much sense now why I'm feeling this way here, and this is engaging in this part of my body. I mean, but again, it takes that time to sit down, quiet yourself long enough, and we don't sit well in the quiet, and we don't sit well in the discomfort.
As a dancer, I started doing meditation. I thought, I can't sit here. I can't sit here. But this meditation is very physical. So it slows you down in order to get inside. So that's why I love it. Because it doesn't take you out. It keeps you in. Okay. But you can go to those higher levels to understand, source and God and how that can come into your existence. Yeah. So that's really...
I like that you said that physical piece, because I think we have a vision of meditation in our heads and what it looks like or feels like. So I'm glad you brought that up. There's multiple ways that this shows up for people and is going to be effective for you.
Right. Yeah. So that it just clicked. And then, because I'm so physical anyway.
Yeah.
And, the layers and the layers and the experience of what, like, for instance, when, my dad died and I got cancer, that was that survival area, loss. And I was just like, everything fell apart. And so that's a really important cue. And when you have self-esteem issues, the gut sort of locks up, Yeah. And then pushes up, and then you heartburn, and so this is kind of the assimilation of whatever's going on with your life. Assimilate it and look into your body to see how the attachments are energetically affecting you. Yeah. And physically affecting you. So that's another kind of neat way.
It really is. Absolutely. And I think that has been, I know for me in my journey of like, when I was able to connect the acid reflux and the anxiety to these other pieces that were happening, all these things that were stored up, all these things I hadn't unpacked, named, acknowledged. It was like, oh, so I understand now. Yeah, it is. It's like, oh, wait a minute. But I also understand now when I have a certain physical manifestation going on in my body, it's a clue to me of like, hold on a minute. What's going on here?
That's it. That's it.
Yeah. What's going on here? What is contributing to this? What either old narrative do I need to revisit or is just a trigger and I need to name it, acknowledge it and move it through and what's going to help me do that? That was such a powerful realization to me. Instead of, going so many times we go to the doctor and we get a pill for this and a food for that and a supplement for this. It's like, hold on a minute. Let's bring this whole bottle together and realize that this anxiety here is contributing to this blood pressure issue here. So the issue within itself is that my blood pressure, it's this anxiety here. If I get a handle on that, then this problem dissipates or minimizes, goes away. But it was like, okay, all right, but that's not what's unfolded to us, especially in Western society.
Right.
And so we really have to learn that a lot of times the hard way, before we're forced to sit down and make those connections. Because we don't really have another choice, to go on and existing that way. So I think there's so much power in that, in finding those ways. And so I appreciate the work you do so much of bringing that all together and the power it has for people when they're willing to sit in that and really get in touch with themselves and make those connect points. It's so important. And living out feel, finding empowerment, embracing layers, which is the body of your work in a nutshell. Talk to me about the impact that has had on your relationship with yourself as well as your relationship with others.
Well, I think rolling back to displaying how you navigate and through these different systems and just working with it. It helped, it's helped with my relationship with my husband and my children, and, they've all been typed. And I think that when you're on that path and that you understand that this could be part of this and this could be part of this, let's find maybe the reason why these things are happening and let's get to the truth and bottom of it, but ultimately find that love is at the helm.
Yeah.
And the bottom line.
Yeah.
Bottom line. We can analyze and figure it out, and the Enneagram is a great tool, but we are not taught. We are all types. It's just we can navigate through one.
Yeah.
So I think it's important to just be in the place of truth and ultimate love.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. And first with yourself, first with yourself. I think that's so important, so powerful. And I think it's important. You said the Enneagram's a tool. It's an insight. It gives you some wisdom and some there's some connect points, because I think it's important to remember, because we learn, we evolve, we grow, we change over time. We don't stay stagnant, especially as we learn more and continue to be learners. And if we could stay open to that. So making room for that as well. And as you unpack and unfold these layers and make space for more, what is possible through that, I think is so powerful. And what we can have access to if we give ourselves the opportunity. Right.
And it leads to, a happier life.
Yeah.
And when using all these resources and sources to navigate through, your own natural self.
Yeah, absolutely. and the human experience, because life's going to throw curveballs. So if you have, you've given examples of your own curveballs, and we all have them. And so, having these things in place is so important to keep ourselves on that, living that most authentically purposeful, healthiest version of ourselves that we can. We are down to the rapid fire here. Name 5 activities that nourish you.
Movement, dancing, walking, biking, writing is huge. Reading, but just being in nature is thrilling.
Yeah,
I'm so lucky to be in areas that provide that. And, traveling is always an experience. Being with people that you love and sharing. And that's really important. And of course, my kids are all coming in town, so I'm so thrilled.
Yay! Yeah. I know, isn't that fun? I know, I'm at that stage too, where it's like they're all out doing their own thing now, and it's like, just the energy from that, bringing everybody back together is so wonderful. Thank you for that. All right, 5 words on how you want to feel the next 6 months.
I think stay with my boundaries and understand that as I create them, I'm also opening up other worlds.
Yeah.
Well, I said this in a meditation. I said, so be aware of how we are lessening some boundaries and increasing some boundaries at the same time.
Yeah.
So because the energy is shifting and changing so quickly, and it just keeps shifting, that we have to roll with it and not resist it. So that's what I want to understand, that the more I resist it and the more I get bogged down with these 3D crap stuff, the worse it gets. So that's really important to stay awake, conscious, spiritually connected. And also getting through and being able to say no, that's not going to work for me. I love you, but that's not going to work for me.
Yeah.
So that being more authentic and so that I can be more loving.
Yeah. Yeah. That's a great example there. No, that's not going to work for me, because I think that we don't utilize that enough because we're afraid to, and it only hurts us.
Right.
Yeah.
So I think that's the listener.
Yes.
The listener is more present.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's what I would work on.
I love that. Okay, I love that. Oh, Fran, thank you so much for this today. Such a rich conversation. I really appreciate your time. Talk to me about tell people where they can find you, how they can work with you. And this will all be on our resources page on our website at embracingletters.com. But if people want to hear right now, let them know that a little bit.
Okay. So my website is franbaileyhealer.com. You can download a free meditation at the bottom of the homepage. Got a lot of media stuff. I've got a meditation. I've got body work, 2 things of body work that are beginner and intermediate.
Okay.
I've just finished a online Shiva introduction course, which is really, really powerful and really good to really jump into this, what this is about being conscious. How do we do that? How do we make those steps? How do we keep notes? How do we do a journal? How do we find that part in ourselves? To keep going. So I do 101. As I said before, I think you can buy like a package of 3 and then do tune-ups.
Okay.
So the 3 individuals are pretty powerful. I do those online or I do those in person. I'm not doing any teaching right now, just one-on-one right now. And then I've done these mandalas that are part of the chakra system. It's a piece of art that you actually lay down, laminated on the table, and see what you're drawn to.
Wow.
So those are pretty cool. An explanation of all the chakras.
Yeah.
The book Enneagram, I mean, the Emergence it kind of explains all about the meditation and what that is.
Yeah. And if you go to Fran's website, I've been there, you can find all of that information there too. It's very, very helpful to get access to. Thank you so much for your time today, for sharing these resources. I really appreciate it. And audience, take some time, make sure you're listening to your body, that you're connecting the dots, that you see that you are worthy and valuable of spending that time in that space for yourself, of living the most authentic life. You deserve that. You were built for that. And hopefully this will give you some resources to access, to look at, and at least just consider those if you're taking that time and space for yourself. I think it's so important in getting to that space, because the hope here is that we can all live our truest, most authentic lives, showing up unapologetically for ourselves and also for each other. And I think, Fran has shared some really great tools and resources that she offers that can help you do that. And at least help you consider these ideas. Like, everybody's got to find that thing that works for them, but you've presented some great options today, Fran. So thank you so much again for your time.
Thank you.
All right, audience, think about that. Take that into consideration. Take good care of yourselves this week. Make space for yourself, and have a great week.